The following tools are used in this video: a Phillips head screwdriver, a 7/64 Allen, and a 1/16 Allen. If you receive a motor stall in the right-hand corner of the DFE, it means that the service station ran into an issue when it is trying to move. You can clear this by going into the gear icon located on the right-hand corner, clicking on HP Advanced, and clicking on Stall Recovery. Doing so will tell the printer to bring the service station back under the printhead and ensure that it is working. During the stall recovery, it will move the service station back and forth several times to ensure there are no obstructions. Having now capped the printhead, we can see that it is now online and ready in the DFE corner. We can once again check that the service station moves by going to the gear icon, going to our HP Advanced menu, and clicking on Check Service Sled. This will check that the service station can drive back and forth correctly. Once it returns under the printhead, we'll check the DFE status. In our case, it is online and ready. However, if this continues to show motor stall, there may be an issue with the service station driving around inside the printhead that we need to investigate. The first thing we'll want to do is take the service station out in case it is off its track and causing errors. To do so, we can remove the feeder by just pulling it back. Loosen the two thumb screws underneath the feeder on either side and take those out. They're already moved in this case, so you can pull the feeder backwards. Next, we'll remove the metal fingers. Then we will open the service station door by loosening the thumb screws on either side. Now we will go back to the DFE, go to the gear icon, click on HP Advanced, and we will tell it to eject the service station. We will now grab underneath the service station with our fingers and pull it out the rest of the way. Having removed the service station, we can inspect for any visual damage. The station should look good. The tracks should have their teeth intact, and nothing should seem like it's out of place. Ensure that the cloth roll is all connected and has not come off. After the inspection, push the sled back in as far as it goes. And now go back to your DFE and tell it to install the service sled. It will start to turn the motor, and if it does that, just gently push on the back and it will pull your sled in. We can now shut the service station door. It will drive the sled around several times to ensure that it is working before having it rest under the printhead. You can now push the feeder back, and you can reinstall the metal fingers. Just as a side note, if you cannot get the service station to come out due to the motor stall errors, or it is severely off track, it may come to the edge but not all the way out. To force it out the rest of the way, you can take a T20 and insert it into the service station shaft located on the front of the machine below the ink door. If after reinstalling the sled, we run the check service light command again, and we still get a motor stall issue, you can try a new service station and repeat the steps. If the new service station still gives a motor stall, move on to the next step. We now have to move on to the back of the machine. Going behind the machine, we can take off the black motor cover, which encloses the gears for the service station. Sometimes the set screw will get loose and no longer move the sled as it's supposed to. There are 4 screws, 2 on either side. Using your Phillips driver, remove them. Remove the cover, and you will see the gear assembly for the service station. Topmost piece is this motor for the service station, which has a connection taped to the top and plugs into the side, and then the motor connection itself plugs in on the bottom of the small board. The middle gear transfers the power from the motor to the smallest gear. The smallest gear is the one with the set screw. This sits on the service station shaft and allows the motor to turn the shaft and move the sled correctly. If the set screw on the small gear is loose, when the motor turns, the sled will not move as it should, and then the motor stall occurs because of an over distance issue. In order to check the set screws, we'll have to remove the motor, the middle gear, and then we can use our Allen keys to look at the smallest gear. Begin by loosening the 3 screws inside the motor. We will use our Phillips head screwdriver. Do note that the screws are kept so they will not come out all the way necessarily, and that is totally okay. Before unplugging the cable on your motor for the print head, turn off the print head on the front side using the power button. After about 15 seconds, the print head should turn off. Continue by turning off the power on the back of the print head. We can now disconnect the cables for the motor. Begin by disconnecting the bottom one, and then continue by disconnecting the top one. Slowly peel off the tape on the top, and we should now be able to pull the motor off, provided that we loosened all the screws. In my case, I need to loosen the side one just a little bit more. Set the motor aside. Using your Phillips head screwdriver, pry the top E-clip off and set it aside. There are silver washers that sit on the gear. Take them off as spacers. Record how many are on either side and do not mix this up. Take off your middle gear. Again, be careful to not lose the silver spacers. We now can get access to the small gear on the bottom. You can see on the side there's a set screw. If we were to put back on our middle gear to turn this, we can spin the gear around ourselves and we'll see there's a second set screw. Using our 7/64 Allen key, we'll put it into the socket head and turn it to loosen. Turn it. You do not have to move this set screw completely, just turn it so it's loosened. It should begin to turn easily. We'll now turn our gear to access the other set screw. Again, the 1/16 Allen. Once it's loose, you should be able to remove the small gear. Here's a closer look at either of the set screws. There's a small pointed one, which is this 1/16, and there is the larger socket head one, which is your 7/64. Turning the service station shaft manually, we can reposition that flat edge so it is in an easy spot to access, and we can install a small set screw onto that flat edge. Slide it on and ensure when you're tightening it down that it is caught on the flat edge. If it spins around freely, slowly tighten it until it is on your flat edge, as shown over here. You want to space the small gear slightly away from the back wall to ensure it does not catch when it's turning. Slowly turn your set screw to ensure it keeps catching on the flat edge. And once it's in position on that flat edge, tighten it down fully. And then ensure it is snug. Using our middle gear, ensure that we can spin the shaft around. I can see that it's binding at this point, so I do need to space it just a little bit more. Having now ensured that this spins freely, we will tighten the other socket head onto the shaft. Torques both of them as far as possible. Having now installed the small gear and properly tensioned the set screws, the smallest one being on the flat edge and the larger one on the side of the shaft, put the washers back on as they were found. Install your middle gear. Ensure that you can spin the gear freely. Install the outside washers if applicable. Install your E-clip. Reinstall the motor on top. Tighten in a triangular pattern to avoid bending the motor. Finally, fully tighten all 3 screws to secure the motor in place.
Okay.
Reconnect the motors. Starting at the small one, plug it directly in. Reconnect the large one, repeating the same process. Push down to reapply the adhesive. We can now reinstall the motor cover. After installing the back motor cover, turn the power back onto the machine. And if the front power light turns off, press it to let it boot. The printhead takes 90 seconds to boot. During the boot up process, the machine will move the sled around several times. You can see that the sled is not currently capping the printhead. That is because we manually move the gears when tightening the set screws. Once the printhead stops moving the sled, the service station should be capping the printhead. The DFE should also show the printer status is online and ready, confirming that there is no motor stall. With the printer online, we can now run the check service light command found in the HP Advanced menu of the DFE settings. After completing the check service sled, the printer status should show as online and ready, confirming that everything is working.